Okay, this will be a continuation of a verse-by-verse study through Revelation, new territory, Revelation 21:9, and I know I'm going to fail in trying to describe the New Jerusalem. How can a mortal mind describe or understand a supernatural city? But Revelation 21:9, it says, "And there came unto me one of the seven angels which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues." So you go back to chapter, 16 probably for those vials. "And talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife." So this would be New Jerusalem. If you go back up to verse 2, "And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband." So the New Jerusalem seems that it's going to be the eternal abode of born-again believers. It appears that the Jews will inherit the new earth, and the heaven will be populated by Gentiles, I suppose, and will continue on out through eternity, according to Isaiah 9, 6, and 7. And the New Jerusalem seems to be focused specifically with the bride of Christ. In Galatians chapter 4, verse 26, it reads, "But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all." So that seems to be the eternal abode for born-again believers. Verse 10, "And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God." Now, this is an experience that some of the prophets had in the Old Testament, where the Spirit of God could just pick a man up and take him from place to place. Ezekiel wrote about this in Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 14. He says, "So the Spirit lifted me up and took me away." Now, that's not a happening here in the church time period, but in the Old Testament, it would save some travel fare. Unfortunately, they wouldn't get the peanuts, but they would go from place to place. He told Jeremiah once, get over to Euphrates. Man, that's 400 or 500 miles. And I would guess the Lord picked him up. The Spirit picked him up and took him over there like he did Ezekiel. In Ezekiel 3:12, "Then the Spirit took me up, and I heard behind me a voice of a great rushing, saying, Blessed be the glory of the Lord from this place." That appears also to be what he did with Philip in Acts 8, because you weren't completely transitioned fully into the New Testament doctrine, but it seems like the Spirit picked him up. So he did this for John in John 21. "He carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem." And so this is the holy Jerusalem. This is unique to, I would say, to the bride of Christ. In Revelation 3, verse 12, it reads, "But to him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, he shall go in no more. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from God, and I will write upon him my new name." Okay, so this is the New Jerusalem. So what does it look like? It says, having the glory of God. How can we understand that? I don't know how we could understand that. "And her light was like unto a stone most precious, like unto a jasper stone, clear as crystal." Now, jasper stone is in this day is like a quartz, and it also is a variety of silica. And what I find interesting is that you have in California the Silicon Valley, and it appears that before the flood, the trees and everything operated under silica, where today it's carbon. And with silica, they could grow absolutely huge, tall trees. I mean, hundreds of feet tall, making the redwoods to look like a little bush. And giants and people grew very, very large. Goliath would have been a miniature giant. So this city is like a jasper, clear as crystal. And of course, you know the devil is going to try to taint the truth here, where you have the crystal slipper of Cinderella. Okay, and it says in verse 12, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names were written therein, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So their names are going to be on these gates. Not only that, will the apostles' names. So on verse 13, you got 3 gates, east, 3 north, 3 south, 3 west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Now, those 12, would it be the added one they did in Acts 1, or would that be specifically chosen Paul? I have no idea. But this is going to be where we not only see colors, we will hear the colors, the vibration. This is just going to be phenomenal. I mean, if the Lord spoke the earth, in Genesis 1, as far as, I believe the recreation of it. But if he spoke that, in 6 days, he told the apostles that I go to prepare a place for you, and he's been working on that for a couple thousand years. We are going to be amazed with this. Verse 15, and he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city. I mean, the tape measures are made out of gold. And the gates thereof and the wall thereof. And the city lieth 4 square. Now, that seems a little strange, but the length is as large as the breadth. Okay, that'd be width. And he measured the city with a reed, 12,000 furlongs. And the length and breadth and the height of it are equal. So converting that to our conversion, I would say it's about 1,200 miles high, wide, depth. So if you take 2 pyramids and put the flat part down, so you had the point up and the point down, and it's like the city will come down and kind of hover above the earth. Okay, so it's just going to be beyond our imagination. And he measured the wall thereof 140 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is of an angel. Right there, tucked inside this, tells you how angels are. The measure of a man, that is of the angel. Angels are men. Matthew 12:30. This is why they don't marry, is because they're all men. And when they fall and take on flesh, they can create with women. And of course, Satan can do that also. The building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold like unto clear glass. And we've never seen gold like that before. But we have precious metals, we have stones. And this might seem strange to some, but you could study gemstones if you wish. And these stones emit vibrations, and they can have healing properties in them. This is what the Lord has made in them. Now, I know in the health world, the folks will be kind of demonically inclined sometimes, where the devil can get his way in some of these things, where air is simply truth twisted. And these precious stones do, and amazingly, can emit vibrations and can emit healing properties. Okay, again, let me give you an example. Now, copper is quite interesting in itself. And copper can be used in an amazing way. Now, this is shungite. And how I came across this is, if you remember years ago, there was a nuclear fallout in Russia at Chernobyl. And, of course, many people suffered from that. But there was one village, there's one area where the people, animal, and plants flourished in spite of the nuclear fallout. And some research was done, and they found out that that village was atop of a shungite mine, a rock, where they mined this out. And I've bought a bunch of this. Sometimes we'll take a little one and put it in water to emit some aided vibrations in the water. But those people, this is like something that protected them from the nuclear fallout, and it might be something that can protect from electronic magnetic pulses that we experience from 5G in your cell phone. And you could actually use this stone and scroll on your cell phone. That's how we kind of discover if it's a real shungite or not. And so we're going to read quite a bit about stones here in the New Jerusalem. Of course, the breastplate on the Old Testament priests maybe was some kind of a board that would light up where God would give them a detailed answer. And then also, if you take this back to Ezekiel 28, Satan, in his original state as a cherub, had stones built in him. So there's a demonic side and there's a spiritual side. The Lord is a chief cornerstone, so it'd be the shape of a pyramid. The demonic side would be the flat top pyramid on the back of the Federal Reserve note with the all-seeing eye hovering above it, the one eye of the Antichrist. And if you kind of really zoom on it, it looks like an eye of a reptile, a lizard, a snake, a dragon. Revelation 21:19, and the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper. Okay, jasper is a red stone, okay, and it is a variety of silica. The next one is the sapphire stone, and sapphire is another precious gemstone. I obviously can't go in detail on all of these, but it's something that has unique qualities. Then the third is a chalcedony, and that's kind of a bluish. It is another form of silica. It's another form of silica composed of fine intergrowths of quartz. So silica is how the earth was before the flood. Okay, then you have the fourth is an emerald. Now, an emerald was mentioned back in Revelation 4, plus it was mentioned in Ezekiel 28. And if you know of the first color movie that was put in front of Americans, is The Wizard of Oz, and basically, if you look at it from a very general viewpoint, it was a mockery of God, where you follow the yellow brick road, you get to the end, it's nothing but hot air. But it is a very demonic movie, and it is also portraying a political position or financial counterfeit position that it's like the devil's crowd. They gotta broadcast what they're going to do before they do it, so that the believers can pray against it. The fifth stone is sardonyx, okay, and then the sixth is sardis, the sardis stone, okay, and it's a kind of a reddish orange stone. And the sardonyx, often referred to as onyx, is also a silica stone material. The crystallite, that's another gemstone. It's an amazing gemstone, as they all are. And of course, they're going to be magnified greatly when we see the New Jerusalem. The 8th is a beryl, the 9th is a topaz, the 10th is a chrysoprasus, the 11th is jacinth, and the 12th is an amethyst. And so a person, I would encourage you to do a study on these stones. Yes, you're going to probably rub shoulders with a few demonic entities, if you look up these gemstones. But, the devil, just because the devil is twisting them, that doesn't mean that you and I can't use them in a proper way. A friend of ours that we often bring out once or twice a year teaches us some health techniques, healing techniques, energy healing. He can take, I think it's quartz, and lay it on a person's back when they're face down, and it will straighten their back. And that's from the vibrations and the energy that stones, God has put in stones. Just something that you can consider, think about, pray about. Revelation 21:21, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. A pearl is like a living stone, and every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And gold is a very, very heavy metal, and these metals often are floating in our blood, in our liquefied in our blood, and upon death, the gold will settle, usually down toward the bottom. If a person remains standing, then it settles down to their feet. And if they're lying down, then it'll be dispersed throughout the midsection. Verse 22, and I saw a new temple therein, or I saw no temple therein. In verse 22, and I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. So in the Old Testament, God had a temple for his people. In the New Testament, God has a people for his temple. So that's why I would strongly lean that the New Jerusalem will be limited to the bride of Christ. The city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it. Why? Because they are illuminated bodies. They're not planets per se. They're an illuminated body, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is a light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved, these would be the Gentile nations after the millennium, which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. That pattern was followed, will be followed in a millennial time period, and then it will continue on after that. Why? Because in Isaiah chapter 9, it talks about the government of the kingdom of his son. Isaiah 9:6, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and that would be the first coming, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. That's the second coming. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. It increases throughout eternity. Upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform it. I tell you, you don't want to miss out on this. It's going to be beyond our imagination. And I know I'm failing right now trying to describe an immortal city from a mortal, limited, very limited mind. Revelation 21:25, and the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. They shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it, again following a pattern that will be expected during the millennial time period. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. Again, right there, again, repeating the idea the New Jerusalem is limited to the bride of Christ, the body of Christ. And the reason why heaven and earth must be destroyed, because someone has defiled it, meaning the devil has defiled it, and at the end of the millennium, he is going to be permanently fired and thrown into the lake of fire. And so that's why he will not be able to be here. And this is why this will live forever. Sin destroys everything it touches. It's just like in the business world, fraud vitiates every contract. It vitiates everything. It makes everything void. And sin destroys everything it touches. And no defiled person or being will enter into the new heaven, new earth and the new Jerusalem. My friend, it is going to be out of this world. Please don't miss it. And the Jerusalem which is above is free. That's why it's a salvation by grace through faith. And that's the ticket, I guess you could say, for the born-again believer. And so to be a born-again believer, to live in the new Jerusalem throughout eternity. Glorious time. Don't miss it, my friend.